Ludvig Aberg has got one of the best swings in the game at the minute. He's just recently won Tiger's tournament, the Genesis Invitational, and we're going to look in depth at his swing with driver and see what makes Ludvig so good with his swing. So if we start off with setup, so if we look on the left hand side, you'll notice just how neutral he is in that setup. You'll notice he maintains that nice curvature of the spine, where we have this rounding of the upper shoulders and then retain that little bit of curve in the lower spine. That's that natural spine angle that you'd see upright, as any human sort of exhibits the normal anatomy of the spine right there. Fantastic keeping that angle here. You'll notice a subtle amount of knee bend. You'll notice Ludvig's working on his alignment there, so he's nice and aligned through the shoulders, through the hips. Everything's aligned nicely parallel to the target there. And then we will also notice how those arms hang nicely just outside the shoulders for the driver, which is pretty common. And if we look on the right hand side, you'll see this setup, you'll see this grip. So a little bit strong with that left hand. You'll see a lot of guys on tour now with more of a body action having that stronger left hand grip, but a pretty neutral right hand grip. It's really important, if you do have strength in that left hand, that right hand is a little bit weaker, that we can see, or neutral in Ludvig's case. If we look at his posture, you'll notice a nice tilt with the spine there that just promotes an upward angle of attack with the driver. And then what I really love is this foot flare. So you'll see with the right foot, we've got about 15 degrees of foot flare there. Really good way of checking that is to place a golf ball here, and then you should be pretty much in line with your heel. You'll notice that left foot is a little bit more flared out than the right foot. That just really facilitates the ability to move around this left glute in downswing and really clear those hips up and out of the way, which he does fantastically. So really nice posture set up, as we can see here from Ludvig. So let's draw a few lines and take him into backswing. So let's draw a line on his hips, and we'll draw a line just around his head here, and then the camera angle does kind of move a little bit because I know people will be critical, so I'll just draw a line. So if anyone wants a point of reference, you can see here how he's working in the swing. So we'll draw those lines and then let's have a look. So let's take him back to this first takeaway position here. So you'll see how that right butt cheek, moves just behind the line here. See that as he's loading into that trail glute, you'll notice how the hands are slightly inside the club head there. Really nice one-piece takeaway with that shaft just outside the hands, very tiger-esque. Loads of width there that I really, really like. And you'll notice how that club face is pretty much parallel to his spine angle there. Really nice job of taking the club away. If we look on the face-on view, what we'll see is those hips slightly bumped to the right-hand side. Little bit of lateral motion you can see with the head here as he's just pushing back here before he starts to rotate. It's kind of like the body just moves all in one. I think that's a little bit of Swedish influence there. The Swedish Golf Federation did a lot of work with Jimmy Ballard. Probably if you're a little bit older of a golfer, you'll probably heard the name, where he promotes that sort of action. Very sort of Stenson, Annika Sorensen sort of move there. So you can see he's probably got a little bit more lateral movement in to that trail hip that's probably taught most of the time now. We see a lot of guys really rotating that right hip back straight away. We don't see that with Ludvig. You'd see that little bit of a shift, which I'm not opposed to at all. It's a great way of generating power. You can see how we'll see loads of width, that right arm slight bend, and that right arm is higher than the left, just keeping that nice one-piece takeaway. So as we take him back, you'll now start to notice that hip now sort of stays there, and there's a little bit of rotation, not a huge amount from Ludvig. And let's just take him back to this halfway back. You see how that right hip just starts to work back ever so slightly. And look how he really sort of pitches this shaft very upright with driver. He's a tall man and can do that. Look how outside the hands are, the club head is, and you can see how he really pitches that shaft very steeply. It's almost like the elbows are pointing down on both the right and the left arm to pitch that shaft quite steep here. You can see it from face on, how much of that right arm you can see. And that's a really good checkpoint if you are somebody who struggles and gets it in this sort of death zone of being too shallow in the backswing in terms of that how that shaft pitches up. You probably see a lot less of that right arm, but you can see Ludvig, a lot of that right arm in takeaway. Not a huge amount of wrist set. You know, we're seeing more and more of that on tour where the guys aren't setting the wrist loads in the backswing like was taught a few years ago, sort of when I started playing. So let's take him back a little bit further. Again, you'll see not a huge amount of hip rotation there, or just any sort of movement. You know, it's a very stable sort of golf swing. Look how little the head has moved there, and it's just very, very simple. Look how he just keeps that hip there. Tremendous amount of flexibility there to bring it up to the top there. And you can see, look, he's moved quite a bit laterally that not a lot of people talk about. That's kind of untoward these days, as many people want the hips rotating back. Doesn't always have to be the case. We can have a little bit of lateral motion. So let's bring him up to the top. You can see there, look how stable his head's been. Not a huge amount of movement down. You can see how he's maintained that butt on that line there. Great position, and you can just see from an athletic position how much flexibility that takes. Look how wide his hands are away from his head here. Look at how wide they are here. You can draw a line. Let's draw a better line than that for you. Draw a straight line here. You can see how wide he is. Pretty much those hands or the butt end of the club on the heels there. Just a lovely top of the backswing position. You can see how that club face, if anything, because of that stronger grip, is ever so slightly short to his wrist angle. You'll see a little bit of that wrist angle here. If I zoom in, you can see how he's just got a little bit of extension in that lead wrist, very subtly, and you see better how that club face is ever so slightly short to the wrist there. But again, we're being very picky there, but it's a great action. And what I love about Ludvig's swing is look at that right arm structure, just really nice structured position here. So let's see where the magic happens in transition. I like looking at this face on view for this transition, so let's have a look. What moves first? So you'll note, look, you see this is all the good players. First move, that left hip moves down and to the left, and you can really see that from where he started, down and to the left, and the upper body's not doing a huge amount there, down and to the left. And what you'll notice is, look at this right elbow position here. So you'll really see as he moves down and to the left, look how much of that right elbow we start to see there. And what that does is, as you can see, if we just look at the shaft there, look how much torque and speed that's creating in that initial action of bumping that left hip down and pushing that right elbow down as well. So if we look at, get rid of some of those lines, if we look at face on, you'll see this action of that left hip moving down and towards the target. And as a result, look what happens as well with that right arm, how that right elbow's moving down, and it really sort of shallows the club out here. You'll notice how that lead wrist starts to move into flexion here. So he starts to lose some of that extension just ever so slightly, and that just helps shallow the club. And you can really see here is how much lower that right elbow is than the left. It's the opposite of the backswing. You'll note how he gets a lot more knee bend now in the downswing because he is loading into the ground. Let's bring him down to halfway down. You can see how he's maintaining that posture nicely on that line. You can see how nice and shallow that club is. But what else you'll see is look how he's backed up a little bit on it. So that head's moved away ever so slightly from that line. That's something that you see with a lot of guys that do shallow it a little bit. Adam Scott does that same move. It reminds me very much of like an Adam Scott sort of move, this. Just very simple. So little move to the left. You can see how much he's moved down by that headline. And then let's just bring him in that position. Look at that. great position there. He's moved his weight back to the left side. That right elbow's lower than the left, which just helps shallow that club out nicely. You'll note at the club face position, it's pointed here. A lot of amateurs, that club face would be here really wide and open, so he doesn't have to do much manipulation with the hands to hit a really nice golf shot. And then let's just bring him down again. He's just not doing a whole lot of excessive body movement here. Let's see if I can't quite get him in that position, but you'll see here, look at that position. Maintain that lag beautifully. He's maintained the elbow position beautifully. You can almost see how it matches up the club shaft and the arm to that right elbow position. See how his head's staying behind the ball there, especially with driver. That's really important. And then let's try and bring him down. It's very hard normally to get to impact. Now, I think Ludvig likes playing a fade. That shaft is slightly outside the hands. And then, boom, what you'll notice here is look at the pelvis. So draw a line here and I draw a line here, and watch how it starts to, see that little move up a couple of inches? It usually starts to drive up through the pelvis. It's a great way of generating power, and all that energy is released, and you can see that there, how that left foot starts to come up off the ground as he's pushing through. And look at the pressure. I'm going to clear all these lines off because it gets a bit messy. Look at that extension through those arms, and look how much pressure. You can see it through that right hand of just those muscles working, and how much pressure he's putting onto the golf ball there. I love this move from Ludvig. And then let's bring him into this follow through release position. You can see how the hands have released nicely. The arms extended, that right knee's worked towards the left. You'll see loads of width. Look at that. Boom. That right foot starts to come off the ground. And look at this left foot. Because what's happened is he's pushed down, but he's also pushing with this toe into the ground, which forces him back. And you'll see this with that left hip position here, is watch how that left hip starts to move up and back out, and it creates a tremendous amount of speed and also a tremendous amount of room and space. You'll hear a lot of good players talk about space in the golf swing. Most amateurs start to move the pelvis towards the ball, whereas most great players move it away. You can always say Jack Nicklaus is the exception, but most great players start to move that pelvis away from the ball, and it creates a tremendous amount of space. And you'll see that with long drive guys, is how much that left foot starts to shift over towards or back behind them. You can see here loads of release, keeps his head down for quite a while. You can see now how much that left foot sort of spins off. It's a great way of taking a little bit of pressure off your body as well. You can see, look how much it spins out here. That's why it's called ground reaction force. It's a reaction to what's happening in the ground, because like I say, he's pushing down and he's pushing towards the golf ball as well, which forces the hips up and then back. So let's have a look at that width. Nice release there. Head starts to move up, starts to get taller, and then into a nice simple follow through. Nice and tall, really nice and balanced. It's very much a body swing. There's not a whole lot of manipulation, just very simple. I'd categorize it as a little bit of shift to the right, and then he just shifts to the left, up and turn, and gets that left hip out of the way and pushes through with loads of width. Great swing. I think he is going to be a multiple major champion. If you like this video, please subscribe. Any questions in the comments, just throw them and I'll do my best to answer them.